Have you ever felt completely alone, like no one understands you? Like the weight of the world is on your shoulders, and even in a crowd you feel unseen? If you've ever felt this way, stay with me because what I'm about to share will change the way you see loneliness forever. Loneliness is a silent battle. It's not just about being physically alone, it's about feeling disconnected, unheard, unseen. Maybe you've been betrayed, maybe you've lost someone, or maybe you just don't fit into this world. You cry out to God, but it feels like He's silent. But let me tell you something, you are not alone. Even when it feels like no one is there, God is. Even in your darkest hour, God has never left your side. Psalm 34:18 says, "The Lord is near to the brokenhearted, and saves the crushed in spirit." God does not abandon His children. He does not forget you. He is near. Think about Elijah, prophet of God who stood against an entire nation that had turned away from the Lord. After his greatest victory, he ran into the wilderness, exhausted, terrified, and completely alone. He even prayed that he might die. But what did God do? He sent an angel to comfort him. He reminded Elijah that he was not alone, that there were still 7,000 faithful followers of God. Or take Joseph, betrayed by his own brothers, thrown into slavery, and locked in prison for years. He had every reason to feel abandoned, but in Genesis 39:2 it says, "The Lord was with Joseph, and he became a successful man." Your situation does not define you, God's presence does. And He is with you. Have you ever thought that maybe your loneliness is not a curse, but a calling? Sometimes God allows loneliness because He wants your full attention. He is removing distractions, pulling you closer to Him, making sure that you rely not on people, but on Him. Jesus Himself, God in human form, often withdrew to lonely places to pray. In the Garden of Gethsemane, even His closest disciples abandoned Him. But what did He do? He turned to the Father. If Jesus experienced loneliness, why do we think we won't? But just like Him, we can use our solitude to strengthen our connection with God. So, what should you do when loneliness strikes? First, run to God. Talk to Him as you would to a friend. Pour out your heart. He is listening. Second, read His Word. Every time you feel forgotten, remind yourself of His promises. Deuteronomy 31:6 says, "Do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you." Third, surround yourself with faith-filled people. Loneliness can make us isolate ourselves further, but God often speaks through His people. Find a church, a community, someone who will remind you of God's love. Fourth, serve others. Sometimes, the best way to fight loneliness is to stop focusing on what we lack and start giving to others. Love multiplies when we give it away. I want you to hear me right now. You are never alone. God sees you. He hears you. He knows your pain, and He is walking through it with you. Even when you feel like no one else understands, Jesus does. Even when you feel invisible, God has called you by name. Hold on, stay strong. You are deeply loved. If this message touched you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs it. And remember, you are never alone. God is with you always.